This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. On a hump of the week, Wednesday morning. You're tuning into the Smooth Breakfast, 33 minutes past 6 a.m. It's time to get into the world of business on Business Express. Ayokunmi here. And it is that platform where we get to talk about the business news issues and making the rounds that have us talking. And today it's going to be a sort of part two, if I can put it that way. And I'll just give you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, yesterday we're right here on the show talking about telecom firms opposing the 5% excise duty reintroduction. We talked about that and so on and so forth. Now, today it is a continuation of that conversation concerning excise duty that has been brought back in and what is being said. The government introduced that on telecoms, gaming, and betting services as well. And as expected, there has been reaction, there has been backlash because AdCon is rejecting, like they're saying, no, we are not on board with this one by any stretch of the imagination. Now, AdCon is the Association of Telecommunications Companies of Nigeria. They've opposed that 5% excise duty reintroduction. And we need to break it all down and make sense of it. This is a continuation of where we started on the conversation yesterday. Or was it on Monday? It was this week. That much I know. But anyways, joining me to talk about this once again, she was here to, talk about that initial story. We're here with the follow-up. Daisy Erharhire is joining me. She is the POS and Business Banking Team Lead at Raven Bank. Daisy, good morning to you. Welcome back again to Business Express.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Lagos. I'm glad to be here once again.
Glad to have you. And for everyone out there, if you'd love to join us on the conversation, you can do that by sending your thoughts into us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Okay, Daisy. I mean, this might seem like the most obvious question in the history of questions, but I need to ask it anyways. I mean, why is AdCon rejecting the proposed 5% excise duty in the telecom sector? And why is it concerned about the timing of this proposal?
Okay, so like you earlier said, I mean, we were expecting some kind of reaction, but it happens to be that telecom persons that are the telecom community rather that are currently speaking out first because apparently a couple of weeks ago they had requested that they increase their tariff by 10%. And if you look back there, within the last 10 to 11 years, they have not actually significantly increased their services. So despite all the inflations within the last 10 years, they've tried to
Right.
maintain price and tariff plan and services. So, I mean, with the rate at which things has increased in the last couple of months, they had sent out a proposal stating that, okay, let's just increase our tariff by just 10%. Because I mean, just as inflation is rising and there's fluctuation of food price here and there, it's affecting operations for them. So you coming on board to say, oh, okay, it feels like, oh, you got our proposal, you just ignored it, and now you're coming back to revive a duty that was actually suspended sometime last year.
Mm.
About to revive it again, despite the fact that we had a proposal over, and we are in a situation where everything is increasing, right? Everything
Oh
is
yeah.
increasing. Somehow, these guys have been able to manage things within the last 10 to 11 years. I mean, there has been increase over this time, right? And like they said, that of course it's obviously going to be affecting operational costs. Don't forget that operational costs ranges from the cost of the diesel they use. I mean, we've had a couple of times within the year where the likes of MTN just went out blackout like for almost 24 hours. I think it was a time for almost 24 hours. There was no service for MTN and a couple of other networks as well. So, I mean, that's to tell you how important they need power supply on a steady to ensure that the services are running. The infrastructures have to be up to date, right? I mean, there are
Mm.
licenses that be on a yearly basis as well. all this, and the fees are not reducing, they're increasing. So all of this adds to like operational expenses that I get to see. And of course, there is staff. I mean, people are working for these guys, right? And they have to
Oh,
be
definitely.
obviously increase salaries or increase allowances one way or the other. So all of this adds to operational costs for them, and it's definitely going to take a financial strain on the industry, on the companies, right? And of course, at the end of the day, it will bounce back on the customers as well. Because if they decide to agree to this duty that government is proposing, right? Eventually, they'll have to increase their services one way or the other, and it will bounce back at us.
Most definitely. And just to, be, state precisely, it was on July the 6th, 2023, that President Bola Tinubu actually
At the
signed
end of
four
the day, and
executive orders, including one that suspended the 5%, excise tax on telecommunication services. Now, just over a year later, we're having a U-turn on that one. And that has brought us to where we are right now. And
yeah,
obviously, it's going to have a domino effect on everything. But before we even dive deeper into that one, let's talk about diesel here, because diesel is something that is needed quite a bit by the telecommunications industry, companies, and so on and so forth. Of course, power is a very big problem. So, I mean, how does the reliance on diesel actually increase the operational costs for these telecom firms? I mean, to what level are these costs taken up?
obviously, cost of um, fuel production importing is already on the high side, right? On a few days ago, I usually don't like to find out when there's an inflation like this and rising things. I try not to find out the prices of things. I just go and do my thing. But I was going back home recently, and I asked one of the drivers, because he had stopped to get fuel. I was just curious, and I asked, how much is a liter of fuel now? And he
Hmm.
said it was around 8,750. First of all, this recent hike change just happened like last week, and prior to that time, I think we're still managing around 900, 1,000. So how did we even move from 1,000 to 1,750 range? And if that's the rates filling stations are selling, how much black market? So imagine how much the cost of diesel will now be, because diesel is usually like almost 30%, 40% increase the original price of fuel, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, if the cost of production, cost of importing fuel products is on the high side, to definitely affect diesel price for them. And like I said, these guys, they need constant power supply to keep the services running, to keep the business going 24 hours all day long, all week, all month. So yeah, I think that's basically it from my end.
Of course, I mean, and looking at the fact that that is happening now, add the 5% excise taxes being
That,
reintroduced. Obviously, like I said, domino effect. Now, when you bring in the end user, the consumer, it is going to be a very, very difficult thing. I mean, what impact are you looking at when it comes to the telecom consumers at the end of the day, Daisy? I mean, we all know how these telecom companies have been angling for them to increase, the prices of their services and so on and so forth. That hasn't happened. And here we are, 5%. We talked about this on Monday when this actually came up,
yeah,
but we need to revisit it and look at how this is going to have an impact on the consumer at the end of the day. You, me, who have to work from home, who need to buy data, who need to make calls and all that. And at the same time, these telecom companies also need to make a profit.
yeah. So just to do a little bit of a throwback. So I think a few days or a few weeks ago, the situation around increasing tariff plan services is pretty critical for these guys, that they were actually considering doing what they call load shedding, where you know how you have electricity, where some days you have light, then you have one day
Mm,
off.
hmm
They
hmm
were actually putting that into, like, it was a thought that came up, like, you know what, let's render services to the high revenue areas, and then the other areas will have experience like poor services. Or we have a case where you have light for 2 days, then one day off, and that is going to affect a lot of sectors there's banking sector, like it's going to affect a whole lot of things. So you cannot now for them to have even for someone to have even mentioned that, like for that thought to have crossed their mind, that's to tell you how much they've been gearing, they've been trying to manage the situation for the last couple of years. So like I said before, at the end of the day, all of this is going to rub off on us, right? I mean, because if for some reason they consider this as an option, it means that a day will go, you will just wake up one day thinking, oh, okay, you want to start the day and work and you don't have data. I mean, even a couple of weeks ago, I had noticed that, my service was not so smooth like it used to be. I mean, I've been in the same area and service is always super. But for some reason, there was this really bad fluctuation. So imagine if they consider that, people not be able to work on a daily basis like they used to. Of course, like I said, affected. And in the long run, we on this end, we're paying like higher fees for the services that are rendered. If you're probably supposed to purchase, a certain data at a certain price, you're probably purchasing at a higher price. So, I mean, I feel like all these basic needs, there's some basic things that the government should not be putting, heavy duties, tax fees on, because these are like basic necessities for us to carry our day-to-day life transactions. So yeah, in the long run, either way, if this is approved, I mean, there's no reduction in fuel, there's no reduction in food, rent prices are going up. Then you not talk about telecoms. I mean, we as a consumer, I do hope that the government will reconsider this and look for a better alternative, a better solution around the whole situation.
We really do hope a solution and of course alternatives can be found at the end of the day, because it's not going to be palatable for the millions and millions of consumers of telecoms services all across the nation. Let's end the conversation with a message from Tayo, and I'm going to do my best Mark Morrison impression. And he says, "Return of the tax." Yes, I know that's what you're going for, Tayo, and I had to indulge you on that one. He further says, Nigerians need to prepare for this potential tax increment if I can't resist it. Another day, another tax for the average Nigerian with fixed income. Who do we thank for this good fortune? Good question, Tayo. If I have an answer, I'll let you know. But anyways, thank you for sharing your thoughts there. And thank you, Daisy, for joining me this morning, as always, to talk about these issues. Pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Lucas, for listening.
All right. It is 45 minutes past 6 a.m. on a Hump of the Week Wednesday. This is the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Keep it tuned. There's a lot more coming up as we count down to Freshly Pressed at 7:30.